There has always been a debate of what is the best Nintendo console. Most Nintendo consoles have their own merits, and you can make an argument for each one being the absolute best. The NES is the one that started it all. The N64 has Ocarina of Time and Mario 64, probably the two most influential games of all time. The Wii introduced millions of new people to video games with motion controls, and now the Switch is doing the exact same thing with its hybrid setup. There's no real way to say which console is the best. However, I believe if a Nintendo Switch Pro comes out, which don't get me wrong, a Switch Pro will happen, and does what we're about to talk about in this video, it could far and away be the best Nintendo console of all time. I'm talking in terms of highest selling, most critically acclaimed, every record in the book, this thing could take it. Now, what do I think this Switch Pro needs to do in order to become the best Nintendo console ever? Let's get into that right now. First thing the Switch Pro could do is removable button plates on the Joy-Cons. The Nintendo Switch inherently is all about being modular. It's about finding your way you want to play and playing like that. Whether it's tabletop mode, handheld mode, or docked, the Switch is all about playing the way you want to. Because of that, modular button pucks, kinda like the ones you're seeing right now in a Nintendo Switch Pro mock-up I made like a year ago now, would be perfect as it would allow anyone to use the button control layout they want. Joy-Cons with a D-pad have been one of the most requested accessories from Nintendo, and now we could have not only that, but imagine a GameCube controller layout, for anyone who wants to play Smash with a GameCube controller but doesn't want to bring around the whole adapter and all that stuff. Third parties could hop on this too and make so many unique button layouts that it would take the customization of the Switch to a new level. The next feature I think the Switch Pro should have is bigger cartridges. The 3DS had slightly bigger cartridges than the DS, but both fit into the 3DS cartridge slot. I think something relatively similar to that would do wonders for the Switch. Naturally, this brings into question, do I think there should be Switch Pro exclusive games? And I don't think Nintendo will do any real Switch Pro exclusive games. Kinda similar to what they did with the DSi and the new 3DS XL, maybe one or two here and there, but every huge game is going to be playable on the base Nintendo Switch. It's just a bad business decision for them to not do that, considering how many base Switch units are out there in the wild. However, allowing third-party developers to have access to a slightly bigger cartridge with more storage would be massive in order to get third-party games that just wouldn't be possible on the normal Nintendo Switch running on the Switch Pro. That way, all normal Switch users will get the games that they were going to get anyway, but Switch Pro users will be able to get extra third-party games because the larger cartridge size will allow for a lot easier porting for third-party developers. I think this is a great kind of middle ground because I know people are very wary about the concept of, Switch Pro exclusive games, but I think this one kind of strikes a balance. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below though. Would you be okay with this? Next thing I want to talk about is adaptive triggers. As you can see right now, the PlayStation 5's DualSense controller has these, and while I'm yet to go hands-on with one myself, they look super cool. Basically, the triggers have haptic feedback, meaning that when you squeeze them down, they actually push back out at you. Naturally, this is only possible on analog triggers, which the Switch does not have. The Switch's Pro Controller and Joy-Con have very digital clicky triggers, whereas this would need to be done on, obviously, analog triggers like the GameCube's trigger. However, imagine Splatoon 3, but with the triggers of the Joy-Con Pro pulsating as you shoot your arrow spray. It seems like the natural evolution for HD Rumble, a feature that in theory sounds kinda cool but doesn't really get utilized much. This would be super cool, and it already has a precedent with the PlayStation 5. The next new feature I want to see on the Switch Pro is a 1080p handheld screen with a 4K resolution dock. Honestly, I don't think I need a 1080p handheld screen. I put it here because it would be nice, but 720p honestly looks fine because the screen is pretty small anyway, so it's not like it's a super blown up 720p image. What would be incredibly nice though is a 4K resolution dock. Now, I know a lot of people don't even have 4K TVs, and I'm not saying that, we need a 4K resolution dock mode inherently so you can see 4K. My logic is, if there's a 4K resolution dock mode, then pretty much every game will be able to hit at least a smooth 1080p 60 FPS. And that gets me super hyped, because games like Doom and stuff are mad fun to play on the Switch, and I would really like to play them more. But honestly, and I never thought I'd say this, ever since I got my PC that's actually pretty strong compared to the Switch, those graphics, man, they are just not doing it for me. They look kind of disgusting, and I would be much more likely to play those kind of more intensive looking games on a Switch Pro that can run them at a solid resolution. Next, I want to talk about UI improvements, and I know that sounds weird to suggest UI improvements for a new version of the Switch, but look at the DSi. The DSi had a completely brand new user interface, and that was a mid-generation update too, so it's not impossible at all. First thing I want to see is a new Nintendo Switch Online party system. Nintendo tried the phone app, and I mean, it just didn't work, I'm gonna be honest. No one uses that thing. However, recently, Nintendo Switch Online on the Switch itself has been getting some updates. Not only did we get the app on the home screen, but we also got this party feature implemented in Super Mario Party, which I know technically that feature's been around for a couple years now, but this is like the first big Nintendo game that actually uses it. For those of you who don't know, you can like invite people from the UI now, like from the menu. That's awesome. I think this is all leading up to the Nintendo Switch Pro essentially having the mobile phone app built into it. This thing should totally be powerful enough to run a party chat while you're also playing a game. And with the recent updates to Nintendo Switch Online, making it a lot more prevalent on the base Nintendo Switch, I think they're just getting ready for when the Switch Pro launches. Naturally, this would be good if it wasn't a Switch Pro exclusive thing, but if it wasn't going to be Switch Pro exclusive, part of me thinks they would have done it already by now. Last thing I want to talk about today is a GameCube Virtual Console, and I know that sounds weird, but you gotta hear me out. The base Switch is totally capable of playing GameCube games, naturally. I mean, it's way more powerful than a GameCube, and it even runs Super Mario Sunshine in HD. However, while Sunshine is technically being emulated, it's pretty assisted emulation. Like, from my knowledge, there's a bunch of stuff in there that, like, it would have to be done individually to each game if they wanted to emulate GameCube games, like a bunch of them on Switch. I know that doesn't really make sense because inherently the Switch should be able to emulate GameCube games, but Nintendo also has a weird history with this type of stuff, considering that the new 3DS was the only version of the 3DS able to emulate SNES games. Wait, I gotta fact check that real quick.
A few moments later.
Yeah, it is. It's for some reason. Okay, I was right. Sorry, you're gonna have to cut out a substantial amount of this. So I don't know why Nintendo likes to kind of lock this feature sometimes behind a paywall, but they do. Because of that, I figured I might as well put this on here. GameCube Virtual Console for the Nintendo Switch Pro. Sign me up. I mean, I just love all these GameCube games. They would be so good on Switch. I would just love to see it. With that out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Would this make the Switch Pro the best Switch console? I mean, with all these improvements, plus all the base Switch games running at a higher resolution and frame rate, honestly, I think it would be the best Switch console for me. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Subscribe if you're new, and with that out of the way, I'm Thomas on the Switched Up, signing off. Peace.